At 3:17 a.m. UTC on February 23rd, every atmospheric monitoring system on Earth that was pointed at the right coordinates registered the same thing simultaneously: an object inside Earth's atmosphere at an altitude of approximately 74 kilometers, moving at a speed that no object traveling from deep space should be able to achieve without producing a shock wave visible from the ground. It was there for 14 seconds, then it was gone. Not gone as in it moved away, not gone as in it passed through, gone as in it ceased to be detectable by any instrument on Earth. No trajectory, no exit vector, no thermal signature consistent with atmospheric exit, no acoustic signature, no radar return, no optical trail. In 8 seconds, something appeared inside our atmosphere from nowhere and vanished into nothing. I have spent the last 72 hours going through everything: the atmospheric sensor data, the radar logs, the satellite infrared returns, the classified communications that followed, and what I found does not just change what we think about 3i Atlas, it changes what we think is possible. Because what happened at 3:17 a.m. on February 23rd was not a malfunction, it was not a meteor, it was not a classified military test, it was a demonstration, a deliberate, precise, controlled demonstration of a technology that humanity does not possess and has never encountered. A cloaking technology, active, sophisticated, and apparently capable of being switched on and off at will inside our own atmosphere. Stay with me. Let me start with the raw data, because before we get into what it means, we need to establish precisely what happened. Earth's atmosphere is monitored continuously by a network of overlapping sensor systems. Some of these are public: weather satellites, civilian radar networks, meteor detection arrays operated by universities and amateur astronomy organizations. Some are classified: military space surveillance systems, intelligence agency atmospheric monitoring platforms, nuclear detonation detection satellites that monitor for pressure waves, infrared signatures, and electromagnetic pulses. At 3:17 a.m. UTC on February 23rd, sensors from at least 6 independent systems registered an anomalous contact simultaneously. The word simultaneously is important here. Not sequentially, as you would expect from an object moving through space that different sensors would detect at different moments as it crossed their respective fields of view. Simultaneously, all 6 systems flagged the contact at the same second. That simultaneity is the first indication that what appeared did not arrive in the conventional sense. It did not approach, it did not enter, it appeared. Fully present, at a fixed point in the atmosphere, at a single moment, the contact registered at an altitude of approximately 74 kilometers. This is the upper mesosphere, the boundary region between the middle and upper atmosphere. It is above commercial aviation, above weather systems, above virtually all human activity, but it is unambiguously inside Earth's atmosphere, not in orbit, not in near-Earth space. Inside the atmosphere, the object size, extrapolated from the sensor returns, is consistent with the estimated dimensions of 3i Atlas itself. Not a fragment, not a probe, something the size of the primary object. It registered for exactly 8 seconds. Then every sensor that had been tracking it returned a null reading simultaneously. Not a gradual fade, not a loss of signal as the object moved out of range. Simultaneous null across all 6 systems at the same second. And here is the detail that has not been reported anywhere. In the 8 seconds between appearance and disappearance, the object did not move. It held a fixed position in the atmosphere with a positional stability that, for an object of that apparent size, implies either an extraordinarily precise propulsion system actively compensating for atmospheric dynamics, or the absence of any physical interaction with the atmosphere at all. It appeared, it held still, it vanished. That is what the sensors recorded. Before we get to what this was, I want to go through what it wasn't, because the conventional explanations need to be addressed directly and dismissed on their merits, not assumed away. The first conventional explanation is a meteor or bolide event. Large meteors entering the atmosphere produce well-characterized signatures: extreme heat from atmospheric compression, a visible streak, an acoustic signature that can be detected thousands of kilometers away, pressure waves, fragmentation debris. None of these were present. The contact produced no thermal bloom consistent with atmospheric entry friction. No acoustic signature was detected by any infrasound monitoring station. No fragmentation debris has been found. A meteor does not appear instantaneously at a fixed point, remain stationary, and vanish without a trace. This explanation fails on every characteristic. The second conventional explanation is a classified military test. High-altitude military platforms exist. Hypersonic vehicles are being tested by multiple nations. But a classified military platform of the size implied by the sensor returns, operating at 74 kilometers altitude, would be known to at least some of the intelligence infrastructure that monitors global aerospace activity. The communications that followed the 3:17 a.m. event, which we will get to, indicate that the detection caused genuine alarm at the highest levels of the relevant agencies. Genuine alarm is not the response to your own classified test appearing on sensors. This explanation fails. The third conventional explanation is a sensor malfunction or calibration error. This explanation fails for one simple reason. 6 independent sensor systems, operated by different agencies, using different technologies, registered the same contact at the same coordinates at the same moment. The probability of 6 independent systems malfunctioning simultaneously in a way that produces the same false positive is effectively zero. This explanation fails. The fourth conventional explanation is a natural atmospheric phenomenon. Ball lightning, atmospheric plasma formations, and other exotic natural phenomena exist and are poorly understood. But none of them produce a contact of this apparent size. None of them appear and disappear with this precision. None of them hold a fixed position with this stability. And none of them produce the specific sensor signatures that the 3:17 a.m. contact produced. This explanation fails. What we are left with, after eliminating everything that fits within our current technological and natural framework, is something that does not fit. Something that appeared in a way we cannot account for and disappeared in a way we cannot account for, using a mechanism we do not possess. That mechanism is what this video is about. Let me spend time on the technology itself, because I think most people, when they hear the word cloaking, think of science fiction, of Star Trek Klingon warbirds and Harry Potter invisibility cloaks. And that association makes it easy to dismiss the concept without engaging with what the physics actually says. The physics says considerably more than most people realize. There are 3 theoretical mechanisms by which an object could become undetectable to our sensor systems. All 3 are grounded in established physics. None of them violate any known law. All 3 are far beyond our current technological capability. But far beyond current capability is not the same as impossible. The first mechanism is electromagnetic cloaking. Our radar and optical detection systems work by detecting electromagnetic radiation, either emitted by or reflected from an object. An active electromagnetic cloaking system would work by generating a field around the object that guides incoming electromagnetic radiation around it rather than allowing it to reflect. Mathematically, this is possible. The equations that describe how electromagnetic fields behave allow for configurations that would produce this effect. We have achieved crude versions of this at very small scales with metamaterials. Scaling it to an object of significant size and making it work across the full electromagnetic spectrum simultaneously is a technological challenge so immense that it is effectively beyond any near-term human capability. But the physics allows it. The second mechanism is gravitational decoupling. Our atmospheric sensor systems also detect objects through their gravitational interaction with the atmosphere, their pressure effects, their acoustic signatures, the way they displace air. An object that could somehow decouple itself from normal gravitational and pressure interactions would produce none of these signatures. It would be physically present but physically inactive in the conventional sense. This is significantly more exotic than electromagnetic cloaking. It requires physics that goes beyond our current standard model, but it is not prohibited by anything we know. The third mechanism is dimensional or spatial displacement, the most exotic option. The idea that an object could exist in a state that does not fully occupy the same spatial dimensions as the matter around it. That it could be present and absent simultaneously in a way that our detection systems, which are designed to detect objects in normal three-dimensional space, cannot register. This is the most speculative of the three, but it is also the most consistent with the specific signature of the 3:17 a.m. event. An object that appears and disappears instantaneously with no approach vector and no exit vector is not behaving like something moving through space. It is behaving like something transitioning between states of presence. Whichever mechanism was at work on February 23rd, the implication is the same. Whatever controls 3I, Atlas has mastered a form of concealment that makes it invisible to every detection system we have when it chooses to be invisible, and visible when it chooses to be visible. The 8 seconds were a choice. This is the part of the story that I find most significant, and the part that most directly connects this event to the broader 3I Atlas situation. If you have a cloaking technology sophisticated enough to make an object the size of 3I Atlas undetectable to every sensor system on Earth, you can also use that technology to remain permanently invisible. You do not have to appear. You do not have to be detected. You can be present in our atmosphere or anywhere in our solar system without our knowledge. So why appear for 8 seconds? The answer, I think, is precisely because of what those 8 seconds accomplished. In 8 seconds, at 3:17 a.m. UTC, 6 independent monitoring systems on Earth recorded an unambiguous contact that cannot be explained by any natural or human-made phenomenon. The data is in logs. The logs have been reviewed by analysts. The analysts have escalated the findings. The governments involved know it happened. The appearance was not accidental. It was not a malfunction of the cloaking system. An entity capable of the precision demonstrated by 3I Atlas's navigational maneuvers, by the mathematical elegance of the encoded signal, does not have cloaking malfunctions that last exactly 8 seconds and resolve cleanly with simultaneous null readings across all sensors. The 8 seconds were a message, a demonstration, a deliberate, controlled, precisely timed act of visibility designed to be detected, logged, and understood as intentional. What was the message? I think it was simple. We can be here without you knowing. We have been here without you knowing. We are choosing to let you know that we can be here without you knowing. That is not a threat, but it is also not a casual observation. It is a statement of capability. And statements of capability, in any context involving two parties with asymmetric power, have a specific function. They establish the terms of the relationship. Whatever 3i, Atlas is communicating through its signal, through its navigational maneuvers, through the coordinates and temporal markers in the decoded transmission, the 8 second appearance adds one more layer to that communication. We are not here because we have to be visible. We are visible because we are choosing to be. The 72 hours following the 3:17 a.m. detection were the most intense period of classified activity connected to 3i Atlas since CSEP was activated. And the activity in those 72 hours tells you how seriously the relevant agencies took what the sensors recorded. Within 14 minutes of the detection, NORAD's command center received an automated alert from the Atmospheric Monitoring Network. The alert classification was at a level that triggers immediate human review regardless of the time of day. By 3:31 a.m., senior watch officers at NORAD had confirmed the contact and initiated an upward notification chain. By 4 a.m., less than 45 minutes after the detection, the NASA administrator had been notified. The notification went through the CSEP escalation chain, meaning it was classified within the CSEP framework from the moment it was communicated. By 6 a.m., the CSEP Review Board had convened an emergency session. This was the board's third meeting in a single day, breaking its own record for frequency of sessions. A source with knowledge of that morning session has described the atmosphere in the room as categorically different from previous meetings. Previous meetings had been serious, focused. The weight of what was being discussed present, but manageable. The February 23rd morning session was different. The source used the word shaken. People who had been professionally composed through weeks of extraordinary information were shaken, because the detection changed the nature of the situation in a fundamental way. Everything prior to February 23rd could be understood as observation at a distance. 3i, Atlas was out there, in deep space or approaching through the solar system. It was transmitting. It was maneuvering, but it was external. It was something to be watched and analyzed from a safe, analytical distance. The 3:17 a.m. detection removed that distance entirely. Whatever 3i, Atlas is, it was inside Earth's atmosphere, not approaching, not orbiting, inside. At 74 kilometers altitude, for 8 seconds, and then gone. The source described one participant in the morning session asking a question that apparently silenced the room. The question was, if it can appear inside our atmosphere for 8 seconds and vanish, how do we know it hasn't been inside our atmosphere before without us detecting it? The room had no answer. That question deserves its own section, because it is not rhetorical. It has a serious answer, and the serious answer is deeply uncomfortable. Our atmospheric monitoring network is comprehensive by human standards, but it has gaps. It has blind spots. It has periods in its history when coverage was thinner, when technologies were less sensitive, when the people operating it were not looking for what they would need to look for to detect a cloaked object choosing to briefly decloak. The 3:17 a.m. detection happened because 6 independent systems registered the contact simultaneously. That redundancy is what made the detection certain. But redundancy of that level has not always existed. 15 years ago, the coverage was thinner. 30 years ago, thinner still. 50 years ago, the detection might not have happened at all. Now consider the decoded signal. The observational record of human civilization that the cryptographic team found in the third layer of the 3i Atlas transmission, the record that documents Earth's technological development from approximately 200 to 300 years ago, the Industrial Revolution, the nuclear tests, the satellites, the radio transmissions. How was that record compiled? How does an object that arrived recently have documentation of events spanning 200 years? The answer that the evidence points toward is that the observation was conducted in person, not remotely. That whatever 3I, Atlas is, or whatever it is connected to, has been present in our solar system, possibly in our atmosphere, for far longer than its detection date suggests. That the 3:17 a.m. appearance was not a first visit, it was a revealed visit. One of many, most of which we never detected. The cloaking technology was not activated for the first time on February 23rd. It was deactivated for the first time on February 23rd. Briefly, deliberately, to make a point. We have not been alone in our own atmosphere for a very long time. We simply didn't know. Earlier in this series, we established that the decoded signal contains a temporal marker pointing to a date approximately 14 months from now. We discussed three possible interpretations: physical arrival, direct contact requiring a response, or a predicted disclosure by human governments. The February 23rd event changes the weight of those interpretations significantly. Physical arrival is no longer the right frame, because physical arrival implies something that is not yet here. The 3:17 a.m. detection suggests that whatever we are dealing with has already achieved physical presence inside our atmosphere. It does not need to arrive. It is here. Or it can be here whenever it chooses. The 1-4 month marker in light of February 23rd most likely marks something else, a transition, a change in the terms of the relationship, a moment when the current phase, the signal transmissions, the navigational demonstrations, the brief atmospheric appearances, gives way to something more direct. What does more direct look like? I don't know. Nobody outside of the classified briefing rooms knows, but I can tell you what the progression so far suggests. The signal said, "We are here, we know where you are, we have been watching you, and something happens in 14 months. The navigational maneuvers said, "We are moving under control, we are approaching, we are not passing through." The atmospheric appearance said, "We can be inside your atmosphere, we can be invisible when we choose. We chose to let you see us this time." Each step has been closer. Each step has been more direct. Each step has added a layer to the communication that makes the overall message clearer. Something is building toward a conclusion, and the 1-4 month marker is when that conclusion arrives. I want to be honest about the limit of what we can conclude from the evidence. Everything we have established points toward a technology that is real, deliberate, and sophisticated. The 8-second appearance was intentional. The cloaking capability is real. The implication that we have been observed for a long time without our knowledge is supported by the evidence of the decoded signal's contents. What we cannot establish from the evidence is intent. Not the mechanism of the technology, not the fact of the observation, but the intent behind it. Is the deliberate revelation of cloaking capability a gesture of transparency, a sign that whatever controls 3I, Atlas, is moving from concealment to openness as we approach the 1-4 month marker? An invitation to understand the full scope of the relationship that has existed without our knowledge? Or is it something more ambiguous? A reminder that the asymmetry of capability is real and permanent, that we are being observed by something that can be present in our atmosphere without our detection, and that we have no mechanism to prevent or even identify, not a threat, but a statement of the baseline reality of the situation. I genuinely do not know, And I think anyone who tells you they do know is overstating what the evidence supports. What I do know is that the 8 seconds on February 23rd changed the nature of this situation in a way that cannot be undone. Before that detection, 3I, Atlas, was something approaching from the outside. After it, the outside is inside. The distance is gone. And whatever the intent behind the demonstration itself means that the conversation we are having about what 3I Atlas is and what it wants is no longer theoretical. It is immediate. 8 seconds, 74 kilometers altitude, 6 independent sensor systems, simultaneous appearance, simultaneous disappearance, no approach vector, no exit vector, no thermal signature, no acoustic signature, a fixed position held with perfect stability for exactly the duration needed to be unambiguously detected and nothing more. A technology that makes an object the size of 3I Atlas invisible to every detection system we have. Used not to conceal, but to reveal, not to hide, but to demonstrate, not accidentally, but precisely, and a question that the CSEP review board had no answer to. If it can appear for 8 seconds and vanish, how long has it been here without us knowing? The signal said they have been watching us for 200 years. The 8-second appearance showed us how. We were never alone in our atmosphere. We just couldn't see what was sharing it with us. The next video goes into the 6 other coordinates in the decoded signal, the star systems listed alongside Earth, and specifically the one on that list that has been producing anomalous radio signals for 11 years that no mainstream outlet has connected to 3I Atlas. That connection changes what the list means entirely, and it changes what the 1-4 month marker points toward. Subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to understand what February 23rd actually was, and drop a comment with the question that's sitting heaviest after watching this. Because the 8 seconds were a message, and we need to understand it before the 14 months run out.